Hello, good morning children. Today in this video I am going to explain class 6 history 7th chapter new questions and ideas part 3. In the previous videos you have learned about the Buddha. In Buddhism what were his teachings, and in Jainism what Vardhamana Mahavira taught, everything you have learned. Now you are going to learn about Sangha, about Sanghas. What are these Sanghas? Let's see. What are the Sanghas? So, in both Buddha and Vardhamana Mahavira, in Jainism, what they have they taught the people to leave homes for gaining the knowledge. Their belief in both religions, they have taught the people who will leave their homes, they only can get the knowledge. If the people are going and leaving the homes and going outside, where they will stay? So, for them, they have arranged some rest houses. These houses, shelters. The shelters which are arranged for those people who left home in search of knowledge. Okay. In search of knowledge, who left home? In search of knowledge, who left home? For those people, the shelters arranged. Okay, the shelters arranged for those people who left home are called as, in search of knowledge, are called as the Sanghas. Okay, so in search of knowledge, whoever left the home, they can come and stay in these Sanghas. Both the Mahavira and the Buddha felt that only those who left their homes could gain true knowledge. They arranged for them to stay together in the Sangha. So, all those people who left their homes, they can stay in these Sanghas together. An association of those. Sangha means an association. Means the Sangha means the association of those. Here we can say the association. The association which is arranged for those people who left the knowledge. Okay. In search of knowledge. Those who left their homes. So, an association which was arranged for those people who left homes in search of knowledge. The rules made for the Buddhist Sangha were written down in a book called the Vinaya Pitaka. So, about this, we can say that Buddhist holy book, the rules, they were written in Vinaya Pitaka. Vinaya Pitaka. So, Buddhist holy book. This was called as Buddhist holy book, that is Vinaya Pitaka. Okay, Vinaya Pitaka. From this, we know that there were separate branches for men and women. So, from this Vinaya Pitaka, we can say that these Sanghas also were different for men and women. Different Sanghas were there. Okay. From where we got this? From this book, Buddhist book, Vinaya Pitaka. The rules were written in this book, and from that we can know that for men and women there were separate houses, branches. All men could join the Sangha. All men could join the Sangha. However, children had to take the permission of their parents and slaves that of their masters. So, if anybody wants to come to leave their homes and if they want to join in this Sangha, men automatically they can come. If children want to come and join in these sanghas, they have to take the permission of their parents. If they have taken the permission of their parents, then only they can come and join the sangha. And at the same time, by the time slaves were there, if the slaves, they want to come and join these sanghas, they have to take permission from their masters. From their masters. Okay. Next. Those who worked for the king had to take his permission, and debtors that of creditors. If the people are working in the court and if in the kingdom, for the king, they have to take the permission of the king. Okay, then only they can join. They can go and join in sangha. And if any person who have taken loan from the other person, that person, if he wants to come and join in sangha, means he has to take the permission from the debtor who gave money to you. From that person, you have to take permission and you can come and join in the sangha. These were the rules. Women. What about women? If a woman want to join in the sangha, she has to take permission from her husband. If the husband permits her, she can come and join in the sangha. Men and women who joined the sangha led simple lives. They meditated for most of the time. So, after all taking all these permissions, if anybody went and joined in those sanghas, means how? After joining the sanghas, what they have done? They have stayed in the sanghas, and in most of the time, they spend their time in meditation. They meditated for most of the time and went to cities and villages to beg for food during fixed hours. So, after the meditation, for their food, if all are doing meditation, means how they will get their food? They have to, after the meditation, they have to beg their food. They have to go to villages and cities in search of food. That also during fixed hours. Particular time will be there. In those timings only they have to go for food. That is why they were known as bhikkhus. That's why as they are going and begging food, they were called as bhikkhus. Okay? Bhikkhus. Why they were called as bhikkhus? Because they were going and begging food from others. The Prakrit word for renouncer, beggar. In Prakrit language, the beggar was known as bhikkhus. And bhikkhunis. Men were called as bhikkhus and women were called as bhikkhunis. Okay, women. These were bhikkhus, men, and bhikkhunis, women. They taught others and helped one another. Okay, what these people have done? They taught others and helped others. They also held meetings to settle any quarrels that took place within the sangha. Within the sangha, if any disputes happen, means they used to settle down. Who? These bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. They helped each other, they discussed each other, they solved the problems within the sanghas. Those who joined the sangha included Brahmins, Kshatriyas, merchants, laborers, barbers, courtesans and slaves. From all the categories, all types of people, they came and joined in these sanghas. They were farmers, Kshatriyas, merchants, traders, courtesans, slaves, Brahmins, all types of people went there. Many of them wrote down the teachings of the Buddha. They not only listened, but they have recorded the teachings of the Buddha. Some of them also composed beautiful poems describing their life in the Sangha. So all these, some of the people who were in these Sanghas, they have described in the form of poems, their lives in the form of poems. So that is about the Sangha. Next thing is the monasteries. What are these monasteries? Let's see. To begin with, both Jaina and Buddhist monks went from place to place throughout the year teaching people. So, in both religions, these monks, Buddhists and Jainis, both of them moved from one place to another place, From one place to another place, they moved and they have They have taught the people. The only time they stayed in one place was during the rainy season, when it was very difficult to travel. So, always their work was from moving from one place to another place in the process of teaching. Only they stayed during the rainy season. Why? During the rainy season, those days no vehicles. They used to walk only. And during the rainy season, it was very difficult to go from one place to another place. That's why they used to stay in some places. Then their supporters built temporary shelters for them in gardens, or they lived in natural caves in hilly areas. So by the time they used to live in natural caves, hilly areas. Okay. Natural caves and hilly areas and temporary shelters. Okay. Who arranged these? The supporters. The supporters arranged some rest houses for these monks in gardens, natural caves or hilly areas or temporary shelters. As time went on, many supporters of the monks and nuns and they themselves felt the need for more permanent shelters, and so monasteries were built. So, is it easy? Is it possible to stay in natural caves permanently? It is not possible. Of course, for 1 or 2 days they can live. But if rainy season means nearly 2 months, 3 months will be there. For that much long, it is not possible. So, they realized the need of permanent shelters. So, what the people did, they have the supporters, the helpers, they have built permanent shelters for those monks. Those permanent shelters for Buddhists, for these monks were called as the monasteries. Okay, the permanent shelters for these monks were called as monasteries, the monasteries. These were known as viharas. The other name was viharas. Okay. These were called as these monasteries. That means the shelter houses, the rest houses for the monks were called as the monasteries, and they were called as, the other name was viharas. Okay, next. The earliest viharas were made of wood and then of brick. Okay, these viharas were made of wood or brick. Some were even in caves that were dug out in hills, especially in Western India. In Western India, some were dug in caves only. In the caves only, they have constructed these viharas. Very often, the land on which the vihara was built was donated by a rich merchant or a landowner or the king. So, for the construction of these viharas and the monasteries, they need some places, some land. That land also offered by kings, big merchants, traders. They have donated that land and gave to the supporters. Then these supporters, they have built these viharas. The local people came with gifts of food, clothing and medicines for the monks and nuns. In return, they taught the people. So, local people what to do, what they did, they have offered food, water, clothing and medicines to these monks, bhikshus. Okay. So, in return what they did? In return, they taught the knowledge to the common people. Over the centuries, Buddhism spread to many parts of the subcontinent and beyond. We will learn more about this in chapter 10. Okay, about this Buddhism, you will learn detail in the chapter 10. And moreover, they have given one brief account, children. Let's see what is this. The system of ashramas. So, these monasteries and all these construction over. But, how was the life in these monasteries, in these ashramas? Let's see. Around the time when Jainism and Buddhism were becoming popular, Brahmins developed the system of ashramas. So, when one side, this Buddhism and Jainism is developing, the Brahmins, in Varna system Brahmins, they have developed the system of ashramas. Here, the word ashrama does not mean a place where people live and meditate. Here, ashrama means not the rest house where the people stay and do meditation. Ashrama is something different. It is used instead for a stage of life. It is used to refer the stages of life. 4 ashramas were recognized: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya men were expected to lead simple lives and study the Vedas during the early years of their life. So, in these 4 stages, at the very early age, that is Brahmacharya. During the Brahmacharya, Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they were expected to learn knowledge, to lead simple lives and study the Vedas. In the Brahmacharya, they have to get knowledge. They have to study Vedas. Next, what is the second stage? That is Grihastha. Let's see. Then they had to marry and live as householders. After studying the Vedas, they have to get married and live as householders. That is Grihastha. Next, third stage is Vanaprastha. What is Vanaprastha? Let's see. Then they had to live in the forest and meditate. So, after completing Grihastha Ashrama, they have to go for Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means after a certain age, they have to go to the forest and they have to do meditation. Finally, they had to give up everything and become sannyasas. At the age, after completing the meditation in forest as Vanaprastha, they have to give up everything and they have to become as sannyasas. The system of ashramas allowed men to spend some part of their lives in meditation. Generally, women were not allowed to study the Vedas and they had to follow the ashramas chosen by their husbands. So, this ashrama system was only for men, and women, they don't have the choice to study the Vedas, and at the same time, after their marriage, what their husbands were passing these ashrama stages, they have to support them. That is the system of ashramas. I hope you understood, children. So, by this lesson also over. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.